Hi there. It's me again, Angelina, the Kleptomaniac. Remember last time I told you about my addiction? I also told you that my boyfriend Igor took me to his father's job, where he showed me a terrarium. It was there where I found, as it seemed to me at the time, a way to satisfy my emotional needs, to steal something. The story with the spiders, a sudden burst of adrenaline, helped me replace one feeling with another, but it didn't last long. And the more time passed, the more I began to understand my addiction. Now I'll tell you all about what happened to me next, and watch to the end, and don't forget to write your comment below. Spiders helped me forget my addiction, and it lasted almost a month. Me and Igor willingly went to the terrarium, but one day, when I was standing there in the terrarium, I saw a small aquarium for spiders. It was very beautiful and cute. And then I felt a familiar thumping on my heart. My temples throbbed, and it was like hot blood running through my veins. I realized that I was getting the urge again. He went to the bathroom for a little while, and I couldn't fight the urge. It was like a flash. I had to steal this aquarium. Along with it was a spider, a black one. Igor called him Mark. I don't know why. I quickly hid it in my bag, and then Igor came in. I felt so uncomfortable, and at the same time good, because I did it and I got all the same feelings again. Igor offered to go out to eat, and I agreed. Just before we left, he suddenly asked me where his spider Mark was. I said I didn't know, and then he started looking for him all over. "What do you need him for?" I asked, a little nervous, and Igor said that his mom and dad had given it to him not too long ago, and he had promised to raise him. I felt bad for him, but I couldn't give myself away. Anyway, we went out to eat, and then I ran home. At home, I opened my secret drawer in the closet and went to look to give Mark the spider away, because I couldn't keep him and stupidly expose him to everyone, especially my boyfriend. The spider was taken off my hands that night by some girl from down the street, and I sighed with relief. By the way, yes, in case you didn't know, kleptomaniacs don't keep things that are stolen because we don't need them. It's not so much the thing itself that attracts us as the actual process of stealing. For this reason, my condition was hard to figure out, especially at the time when I was afraid to admit it to myself. But things got easier when I accepted it. Igor grieved for his spider for a couple of days, and then told me that he and I had been invited to a wedding. His cousin's wedding ceremony was to be held in a huge restaurant hall. That thought made me happy, but I immediately had some bad ideas in my head. I think you know what I mean. The day came. I got all dressed up. Igor picked me up, and we went to the restaurant. It was so beautiful there. Everything sparkled and was shiny. My hands were reaching out to take this and that. I restrained myself as best as I could. After all, there were too many eyes around. The bride and groom looked very happy. Igor introduced me to them, and we chatted. Then it turned out that the bride had lost her purse. She assumed that she might have left it in the bathroom. I said I'd run and get it. As soon as I went to the restroom, I saw a beautiful white clutch. It matched her dress perfectly. I grabbed the purse, but it fell out of my hands, and a red box with their wedding rings fell out of it. My chest pounded again. My knees were weak. Palms were sweating. But how could I take them? After all, they're having a ceremony right now. No, I won't, but they're so beautiful. No, it's wrong, I said to myself. Then Igor came into the bathroom abruptly. "Angie, where are you? It's starting already," he told me. I grabbed the purse and ran into the hall. Everything was beautiful, and then the groom asked for his purse. But looking inside, there were no rings. They started asking me if I had seen it, but I said that I did not look in the bag, and I didn't know there were rings in it. There was no time to argue, so I pretended to be innocent, while clutching my pockets tightly in my dress. The rings were in my possession, along with the box. The bride was very upset, but the wedding host made up for it. When I got home and looked at the rings, I realized that I didn't like them one bit. I just had the urge to steal something, that's all. I threw them in the back of my drawer and immediately forgot about them. It's been about 4 months since then. One weekend, Igor and I decided to go to the terrarium together to help clean up again. While we were cleaning, some girl came in. Her face seemed very familiar to me, but I couldn't remember where I might have seen her. "I want to show you something. I've had him for 4 or 5 months now, and he seems a little bit sick. I was wondering who I could show it to, and I remembered that we have a terrarium in town. Surely you know what this is about," she said, and then pulled out of her purse the very same spider in the very same aquarium I stole. "Is that Mark?" Igor asked. "Where did you get it?" The girl said she found it online from a girl. I immediately took 2 steps back. I felt uncomfortable. And then she pointed her finger at me and was like, "Yeah, actually, she's the one who sold it to me." And my gaze caught Igor's. He was shocked. And I didn't know what to think or say, and I started denying everything. But the girl was so stubborn and confident about when and how we met, about how I gave her the aquarium too and everything. The embarrassment made me gasp. Igor asked the girl to leave the spider and come back the next day. And she did. We both stood in silence. I couldn't utter a word. He asked me why I did it, why I stole the spider and gave it to another person. But I couldn't tell him the truth. Otherwise, he would think I was just a thief. I apologized and just said that I was very afraid of this particular spider. I don't know why, but Igor believed me. He hugged me and told me that if I was afraid, we wouldn't come here anymore. We came out of there, and I suggested to go to the movies, but I needed to change first. Igor dropped by my house. I ran into my room and I wanted to find a dress I had just bought. Because I was in a hurry, things got caught. I got tangled up and fell right on top of the drawer. Igor helped me get up, and then stood up and looked at something in his hands. I froze. He was holding the box of rings that I had stolen from his cousin's wedding. I had already forgotten about them. It's not what you think, I told him. And he said to me, "Well, what is it? What is it, Angie? These are the initials of my cousin and his wife. You said you hadn't seen these rings. The wedding was almost off, and all the while you had the rings? How could you do that? Why would you do that? I brought you there and you did that?" He asked me multiple times. I had nothing to say. I was so muddled. I was so ashamed, especially in front of him. I stood with my head down and arms crossed over my chest. I wanted to just melt into a puddle on the ground. He turned around and left, and I was alone in the room, crying. I hated myself for being like this, for being a kleptomaniac. I wish I had any other addiction, but not this one. But I couldn't admit it to Igor, because he wouldn't understand anyway. He would think that I was a common thief. My mom came to me sometime later and asked what was wrong, but she didn't know either. She thinks I stopped doing it after quitting as a child. Tell me, guys, what would you do if you were me? What would you say to your boyfriend if he found out something like that about you? Also, would you like to hear more of my story? Then please like and comment, and next time I will definitely tell you how my story ended. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Hi, I'm Angelina, and I'm a kleptomaniac. Why did this happen? I don't know. It's just that, lately, I've been tired of monotonous, boring days. Even my boyfriend Edvard couldn't make my life any different, especially since he started to disappear often at his father's work. And suddenly, an interesting memory came up. One day, long ago in kindergarten, I stole a teacher's wallet. Then she panicked and questioned each of us in her room. I remember the children coming out of there crying. I was terrified waiting my turn because her wallet was in my purse and angry babysitters were standing next to her. One of them rudely took my hand and led me to the room where the strict and exhausted teacher was sitting. I tried to look like I was a good girl and didn't need a shot. The teacher carefully looked at me fluttering my angelic eyes, then said, "Go. I don't think it's you." I was struck by the feeling, which then overtook me, of fear and fun. After all, the teacher could have just reached out and opened my purse. Probably that was the adrenaline. This memory has awakened something in me. One time, I was visiting a friend of mine and stole her father's expensive iPhone. It wasn't even half an hour before her dad noticed the absence of his phone. Everyone started searching. It was nowhere to be found. Then her dad looked at me and locked the door. He first asked me if I'd taken the phone, and my knees were shaking. When he was given a negative answer, he ripped out my backpack and threw all its contents onto the table. There was no iPhone. Seeing my innocent and frightened face, my friend cried, and her father apologized to me and left. From that day on, I started stealing. First, small things at school, in the dining room, in the clubs where I took classes, and one day, I stole from a nurse who came in to give my mother a shot. It got worse. I stole the first thing at the supermarket, and when I went through the cash register, I was filled with the greatest fear. I can't remember how I got to the subway. I thought I was being followed by a security guard, and when somebody shouted to me, "Angelina, stop!" I almost died. I got pulled over by my boyfriend Edvard. I couldn't recognize him for a while. Turns out he was watching me and saw me hiding chocolate in my bosom. He asked me, "What, are you hungry?" I gave him the chocolate quickly and ran away. I got caught stealing from a store once. The angry owner took me to the police. I cried. The policewoman calmed me down because I lied that I was hungry and wanted to eat. She went to a cafe, bought me something to eat, and talked to me for a long time. She let me go home on my word of honor. Then, I guess, she was shocked to see that her wallet was empty. And why did I get in her purse? The next day, a policewoman came to our school and together with the principal, interrogated me. I told the whole truth, and I promised to return the gold medals that the school athletes had won. I stole them from the principal's office. I was sent to the psychologist for compulsory treatment. Life has returned to its boring course. One day, my boyfriend Edvard called me to his father's work. I could hardly make myself go there. But the name of the office gave me the shivers. Municipal Serpentology Center. What? Edvard gave me a tour around all the laboratories and terrariums of this center. The sight of these dangerous, poisonous snakes, spiders, black widows, solpugids, and jellyfishes alone caused a storm of emotions and adrenaline in me. It turns out that Edvard himself is a fan of adrenaline, but he found his a better use for peculiarity. He takes care of these reptiles, knows each of them by name, their character and habits. I felt that I was beginning to like it all, when suddenly Edvard screamed, "Stop! Don't move! On your hair is crawling Latrodactys tridecim gutatus," and ran after the flask. What I felt then can't be compared with anything. Edvard carefully, lovingly took off the baby black widow from my hair and calmed it down for a long time. It turns out that he was not worried for me, but for him. Oh well. Since then, I've stopped stealing and started caring for cute and useful creatures. Write in your comments. Have you ever stolen? And how do you feel about poisonous reptiles and insects?